Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. We are not meeting right now. The building is locked, unfortunately, but we are still teaching. We're still teaching the philosophy of eschatology, which is what you need to know during the end times, your reality, our existence. Why were you born for such a time as this? We try not to have disparate ideas, and we try to be Beth Hesed, a nice, safe. Hesed would be like loving covenant. It means that God has a program for you, a system, and it's love, and it's going to follow through from the beginning to the end. Beth Hesed, the house of Hesed. So the question today is why God? Why? Why release the Satan after 1,000 years? But why do we need a Gog 1, a Gog 2? Why do we need a great tribulation? Why do we need all these end time events? And God has him chained for 1,000 years. Why release him? So once you start out with that, why are we going into this time and why is it going to be so horrific? So let's discuss the first that kind of set me off on this. Why God? Why release Satan? When 1,000 years are over, the adversary, that's Satan, will be set free from his prison. Why? And will go out to deceive the nations in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Again, their number is countless as the sand of the seashore. And they came up over the breadth of the land and surrounded the camp of God's people and the city he loves. But fire came down from heaven and consumed them. The adversary, Satan, who had deceived them, was hurled into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they were tormented day and night forever and ever. Revelation 27 through 10. So why do we need to have this Gog Magog part 2? Why, if you have everything all worked out, why do we need to have Satan released? What are the rules? So what we try not to do is twist the Bible. We try to give you real prophecy from then and now, and the news. What seems to make sense, and it's all the philosophy of the end of days. So today's lesson really takes from Jordan Peterson, whether you love him or not. He's citing every single therapist out there when he says exposure therapy works amidst pain. So let's pretend that you're afraid of cats or afraid of dogs or afraid of horses or afraid of water or heights or whatever else. If we expose you to it gradually and work with you. So let's say you're afraid of dogs because you were bitten as a kid. Well, if we give you a puppy, it's pretty hard to be frightened of a puppy. Now it's going to bite you, but that's because it's nibbling. It's not really going to hurt you or anything like that. But so we can gradually give you exposure therapy. So what I'm arguing is that during the end times, we must witness God's confrontation with the adversary to fully heal. There is a process that must occur, and it's based on exposure therapy, I believe. And we'll see if it works. I'll show you the verses. So basically, God has a rule, and this is what I'm basically riffing off what Jordan Peterson stated, his points, his key points. Establish a firm foundation. That is Torah, that's the Bible. Formulate a solution map. Well, our map is to the Messiah. He's returning. Move from bad to better. Confront what stops you from spiritually joining with Messiah Yeshua. Process involves confronting tragedies, terrors, unbearable realities, suffering, malevolence, things like that. Okay, you have to confront those things, the bullies of your life. Light is found by confronting darkness that surrounds you, and you must confront the devil to transcend life and set the 1,000-year house in order. So Yeshua has a purpose in all of this of confronting Satan. He started it off, and I'll show you the verses and all the things that apply to this. So if you have a problem and you step over it all the time, you'll never deal with it. Now, I'm not recommending put a spider on your face, and I'm not recommending what Professor Gallagher does here, which is spontaneously or simultaneously confronting the fear of heights, snakes, and the dark. Okay, but I'm saying that there's a process that you can go through. You acquire the fear, you expose it, and then you force it into extinction, and then you later on you process it. You have either anxiety or calm over this, whatever it is. And so if you practice at it, the fears should dissipate. So it does work. So we are part of this process. We're born for this time, people. And that must mean that we have to confront Satan alongside God. So exposure therapy, we're exposed too. Okay, so Satan is part of the exposure therapy, but we're out there. We're going to be right on the edge. Okay? So are you willing to suffer and die to prove God's holiness? This is his plan. Are you willing to be a part of this? You will need to witness a cosmic fair fight between God and the Satan with something on the line, okay? God's promises to his people. Satan isn't fighting just for the fun of it. He thinks he can win. And God has to give him the opportunity to win. Otherwise, it's not fair. And Satan is always accusing. Can you imagine him accusing God and saying, you really didn't make it a fair fight? So it's going to be a fighting chance for Satan, okay? And it won't be a rigged fight. We're going to be right out on the edge. Others are going to be out on the edge. And it's going to be horrific at times, okay? So the seven seals of the birth pangs, the four trumpets start the final 7 years. And then three trumpets plus the woes, which are called the woes, plus the seven bowls are the final 10 judgments of the world. And so I'm asking you to add one more thing into your, these are the greatest theological questions of this day and age. Once saved, always saved. Pre-trib rapture. Is it actually pre-trib? Speaking in tongues. And then number 4 is why the Great Tribulation and why now? Why does God need to have a Great Tribulation and why were we born for such a time as this? Very interesting time frame, people. So there will come this Gog-Magog war, but there's 2 of them. So let's describe the location is everybody coming against Israel. The little Natan kid from Israel back in 2015 said it was Obama that's Gog. So we'll see if it happens this way. And God does retaliate. He actively gets involved during the Gog-Magog war. And he's very long suffering. So here it is from Revelation 19, and then I'll give it to you from Ezekiel 38:39. Part 1. And they'll resemble each other, so keep that in mind. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried out in a loud voice to all the birds that fly about in mid-heaven, come, gather together for the great feast God is giving, to eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of generals, the flesh of important men, the flesh of horses, their riders, and the flesh of all kinds of people, free and slave, great and small. I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to do battle with the rider of the horse and his army, that's Yeshua, but the beast, that is the Antichrist, was taken captive, and with it the false prophet who, in his presence, had done the miracles with which he had used to deceive those who had received the mark of the beast and those who had worshipped his image. The beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet were both thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. The rest were killed with the sword. That's a Rumphea. That's the same as Revelation chapter 6. So I put it in green so you can see that that's the 4th seal sword that goes out of the mouth of the rider of the horse. That's Yeshua. And all the birds gorge themselves on their flesh. So that's Revelation 19:17 through 21. Here's the same verses. So you, human being, prophesy against Gog. Say that Adonai Elohim says, I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tuval. That's that region of Turkey. I will turn you around, lead you on, and bring you from the far reaches of the north against the mountains of Israel. Then I will knock your bow out of your left hand and make your arrows drop from your right hand. You will fall on the mountains of Israel, you, your troops, and all the peoples with you, and I will give you to be eaten up by all kinds of birds of prey and by wild animals. You will fall in the open field, for I have spoken, says Adonai Elohim. That's Ezekiel 39:1 through 5. Sounds the same, doesn't it? So why do we need this? Because we have to confront and keep in mind, so this is John 12, Yeshua is confronting his death on the cross. So now I am in turmoil. What can I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, it was for this very reason that I've come to this hour. So he understands the turmoil, but he has to resolve this. He has to confront. I will say this, Father, glorify your name. At this, a bat kol, a daughter of a voice, that's a lightning bolt, came out of heaven. And I have glorified it before, and I will glorify it again. The crowd standing there and hearing it said that it had thundered, lightning. And others said, an angel spoke to him. Yeshua answered, this bat kol, this daughter of the voice, did not come for my sake, but for yours. Now is the time for this world to be judged. Now the ruler of this world, that's the Hasatan, will be expelled. As for me, when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw everyone to myself. He said this to indicate what kind of a death he would die. So that's John 12:27 through 33. This is confronting Satan in this case and defeating him. David Stern puts it this way, that at the end of days, I will put enmity between you, the serpent, and the woman, Eve, and between your seed, all who sin and rejoice in the sin of others, whether angelic or human, and her seed and her descendants, humanity. but more particularly the unique seed spoken of in Galatians 3:16, Yeshua, he, the Hebrew is singular, referring to only Yeshua, not plural, will crush your head, and you will bruise their heel. The Hebrew is plural. Humanity can be injured. Yeshua cannot. So this is from Stern, and he's basically riffing off Genesis 3:15. So in this case, this is how it began, and this is how it'll end. And the players involved. You've got the Antichrist, the false prophet. You've got Mystery Babylon. You've got Satan whispering into the Antichrist's ear. And you've got the two witnesses. So we have to witness this. And so there are rules about witnessing and being proper witnesses. And we have to ask the eternal question. God is love, but God is tormenting us at this end times. As we go into greater tribulations, is he love? Yes. So why is this occurring? So we have to ask philosophical questions during these time frames. And we aren't there yet, obviously. So let's talk about who God is confronting on the earth during the final 7 years. And this is not the exhaustive list. This is the big names. The beast, aka the Antichrist. He'll be eventually burned. He's called a therion in the Bible, which is a living animal of some sort. A false prophet. We believe it's Pope Francis. Eventually burned also. And he's called a therion also. There's Gog. Many people believe it's Barack Obama, buried in Israel. So he's a man, and he's buried, and he's earthborn. The king angel of the abyss. That's the fifth trumpet, Revelation chapter 9, the first woe. Then there's the horse-like locusts from that same chapter, from the abyss. They're outfitted for battle with gold crowns and human faces, women's hair, lion's teeth, chests like iron breastplates, roaring winged sounds, and scorpion tails with stingers. Okay, that's bizarre, I know, but that's how God sets up the rules for this. And he's going to put us out on the edge. Now, if you take the mark of the beast, they're going to sting you for 5 months. If you don't take the mark of the beast, God help you either way. So then 200 million cavalry soldiers. That's the sixth trumpet, the second woe from Revelation 9. Then there's the Illuminati, the unseen human leaders, wicked humans wearing the mark. And then, wicked humans in addition, Mark 666. And these people are eaten by the birds at the end. You just read from Revelation and from Ezekiel 39 how they're eaten. So what I'm getting at is that we must be a part of this witness system. We must witness God confronting Satan in this therapy, we'll call it, because it does work. It works whether you're a liberal therapist or a conservative therapist or whatever else, it always works. So let's talk about witnessing that, and we're part of that. So Deuteronomy 19:15 sets it up. A single witness shall not suffice against any person for a crime or any wrong in connection with any offense that he has committed. Only on evidence of 2 witnesses or 3 shall a charge be established. That's Deuteronomy 19:15. Then Numbers 35. If anyone kills a person, the murderer must be put to death on the evidence of witnesses. But no person shall be put to death on the testimony of 1 witness. Numbers 35:30. Hebrews 10:28. Anyone who has set aside the law of Moses dies without mercy on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. Okay? In your law, is it written that the testimony of 2 people is true? So that's John 8:17. Then we move on to 2 Corinthians 13:1. This is the third time I am coming to you. Every charge must be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. And then moving on to Matthew 18:15 through 17. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take 1 or 2 others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church, to the assembly. And if he refuses to listen even to the assembly, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Whoa. Then 1 Timothy 5:19, do not admit a charge against an elder except in the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. And then finally we have the 2 witnesses show up in Revelation 11, and they are clothed in sackcloth, which is mourning, for 1260 days as they prophesy. Interesting. So I'm saying that God must confront the Satan, and I'm going to give you some Old Testament verses that match up with this confrontation. How did you come to fall from the heavens, morning star, son of the dawn? That's Hillel in the Hebrew. So his title is the Satan, the adversary. His name may be Hillel, okay, which would be like morning star. How did you come to be cut to the ground, conqueror of nations? You thought to yourself, I will scale the heavens. I will raise my throne above God's stars. I will sit on the mountain of the assembly, far away in the north. I will attack from the north, is what he's basically saying. I will rise past the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Instead, you are brought down to Sheol, to the uttermost depths of the pit. You will be exposed. You will be confronted, obviously. Okay? Those who will see you will stare at you, reflecting on what has become of you. Is this the man who shook the earth, who made kingdoms tremble, who made the world a desert, who destroyed its cities, who would not set his prisoners free? All other kings of the nations, all of them, lie in glory, each in his tomb. Satan will not lie in a tomb. He's not a man. But you are discarded, unburied. He's burned like a loathed branch, clothed like the slain who were pierced by the sword, then fall to the stones inside the pit, like a corpse to be trampled underfoot. You will not be joined with those kings in the grave. Yeah, the kings will be buried and eaten and buried and taken care of like earthly beings, but the Satan will be chained for 1,000 years and then burned because you destroyed your own land. You have brought death to your own people. The descendants of evildoers will be utterly forgotten. Get ready to slaughter his sons for the iniquity of their fathers, so they won't arise, take over the earth, and cover the world with their cities. I will arise against them, says Adonai Tezvaot. That's the Lord of War. I will cut off from Babylon the name and remnant, offshoot and offspring, says Adonai. I will make it a haunt for hedgehogs. It will become a swampy waste. I will sweep it with the broom of destruction, says Adonai Tezvaot. Adonai Tezvaot has sworn, just as I thought it, it will occur, just as I planned it, so it will be. That's Isaiah 14. Very strong. A singular statement against Satan, and basically about confronting Satan during the end times. And then we move to Ezekiel 28. It's another confronting time frame. Human being, raise a lament for the king of Zor. Well, it's Tyre, but it's really the real king behind, which is the Satan. And tell him that Adonai Elohim says, you put the seal on perfection. You were full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, Satan was, with Adam and Eve, the garden of God, covered with all kinds of precious stones, carnelians, topaz, diamonds, beryls, onyx, jasper, sapphires, green feldspar, emeralds. Your pendants and jewels were made of gold, prepared the day you were created. Satan was created. You were a cherub. Well, that's Satan, we know for sure there, protecting a large region. I placed you on God's holy mountain. You walked back and forth among the stones of fire. You were perfect in all your ways from the day you were created until unrighteousness was found in you. Continuing on in Ezekiel 28, when your commerce grew, you became filled with violence, and in this way you sinned. Therefore I have thrown you out. I have confronted you. I have defiled from the mountain of God. I have destroyed you, protecting Keruv. From among the stones of fire, your heart grew proud because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor, but I have thrown you to the ground before kings. I have confronted you. A spectacle, made you a spectacle. For your many crimes and dishonest trading, you have profaned your sanctuaries. Therefore I brought forth fire from within you, and it has devoured you. He will be burned up at the lake of fire. I reduced you into ashes on the ground in the sight of all who can see you. All who know you among the peoples will be aghast at you. You are an object of terror, and you will cease to exist. Wow. So why am I going this direction? Well, because first of all, I'm trying to reconcile why we need a Magog War twice and why we need a Great Tribulation. And then also Michael Heiser, an interesting PhD. He keeps on talking about how Azazel really ruined it all, and Enoch plays into this, and there's angels, there's demons in the end times, and Enoch is cited in Jude, and so basically, in Enoch, here's what it says. And secondly, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Raphael, a good angel, bind Azazel hand and foot, and throw him into the darkness. He made a hole in the desert, which was Dudael, and cast him there, and he threw on top of him rugged and sharp rocks, and he covered his face in order that he might not see light, and in order that he might be sent into the fire on the great day of judgment. So that's basically Satan in the lake of fire. And gave life to the earth, which the angels have corrupted, and he will proclaim life for the earth, that he is giving life to her, and all the children of the people will not perish through all the secrets of the angels, which they taught to their sons, and the whole earth has been corrupted by Azazel's teaching of his own actions, and write upon him all sin. That's the Yom Kippur service. Okay, so and, goodness, I want to say that's probably September 28th of this year. Okay, and to Gabriel, and he's a good angel, Yud He Vav He said, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates and against the children of adultery and destroy the children of adultery and expel the children of the watchers, those are the fallen angels, from among the people. Continuing on in Enoch 10, and send them against one another so that they may be destroyed in the fight for length of days they have not. They will beg you everything for their fathers on behalf of themselves because they hope to live an eternal life. They hope that each one of them will live a period of 500 years. And to Michael, a good angel, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh said, make known to Samiza, well, I don't need to say his name, and the others, these are the bad angels, who have fornicated with women, that they will die together with them in all their defilement. And when they and all their children have battled with each other, and when they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them for 70 generations. 70 is an interesting number, underneath the rocks of the ground until the day of their judgment, and of their consummation until the eternal judgment is concluded. In those days they will lead them into the bottom of the fire and in torment in the prison, where they will be locked up forever. And at that time they will burn and die. Those who collaborated with them will be bound together with them from henceforth until the end of all generations. That's Enoch 10, first Enoch. So Heiser has his own little theories that are very interesting. He's come up with 3 rebellions that we can't blame Adam for all original sin. Satan fell before Adam. Satan fell before they were in the garden looking for food. And so obviously he cites some interesting voices, and so it's really, if you were a first century Jew, you would be looking at it this way. You would be understanding Enoch and you would be understanding Jude based on your traditions. And so I like the fact that Heiser brings up a different worldview. So basically the angels fell, the angels mixed seed, and the angels corrupted based it on Genesis 3, Genesis 6, 1 through 4, and then Genesis 11, 1 through 9. And so, you've got the fallen angels mixing the seed with women of mankind, and then the Tower of Babel, the corruption. So there are these 3 falls that occurred. And Heiser, he cites some good sources on this. So bottom line is, this is what needs to be corrected in the end days, and it has to be done through this way of us witnessing exposure therapy, we'll call it, in the human sense, okay? And so we need to witness this. We need to be a part of this. We are moving through the seals right now. They're called the birth pangs. Then we'll move into the tribulation for the first 3.5 years, then the great tribulation at the end. And so the 2 witnesses would show up before we go into this first part of the tribulation, and then they would leave before the midpoint. So the 4 horsemen of Revelation, chapter 6, they move along based on Zechariah 6 directions. And the seals look exactly like Matthew 24, so they look like birth pangs and they sound like birth pangs. They match exactly with what you see. And so we're moving through the seals. I believe that we're coming to the fullness of seal 3, and we're ready for seal 4. And it's 4 different judgments. It's a Ramphea sword, which kills. It's the sword that comes out of Yeshua's mouth. Limo, which would be drought. Thanatos, which is death, and biological warfare, which we're starting to see more. Then seal 5, martyrdom. Seal 6 is burning figs and an earthquake. And that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this made more sense on why Satan is going to fight, why God wants the fight, and how we're part of witnessing this. Good night and be blessed.